Life can be overwhelming at times, and we all have to navigate through valleys of darkness. Psalm 23 is one of the most comforting scriptures that offers a profound message for those who find themselves in such situations. Valley of the shadow of death might seem like an intimidating place, but it's not just a physical location. It represents the unknown, fear, and uncertainty that we face when our circumstances become challenging. For many of us, this can be a very real experience as we journey through life's ups and downs. When we're in these valleys, it's easy to lose sight of God's presence and plan for our lives. That's why David's words in Psalm 23 are so powerful. He reminds us that even when we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, God is still with us, guiding and protecting us. This psalm teaches us that true strength and courage come from trusting in a loving God who is always near. It encourages us to look beyond our current circumstances and remember that He has a plan to give us hope and a future. We'll explore this beautiful scripture further and learn how we can apply its principles to our lives when faced with uncertainty and fear. As we delve into the wisdom of Psalm 23, I invite you to join me on this journey of discovery, where we'll seek to understand God's heart for us in times of darkness and find comfort in His presence that shines like a beacon in the night. Biblical context and key passages. The phrase, "Valley of the shadow of death," originates from Psalm 23, where David writes, "Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff comfort me." Psalm 23:4. This iconic passage has become a source of comfort for many who face uncertainty and fear. However, this phrase is not exclusive to Psalm 23. It's also mentioned in other scriptures, such as Song of Solomon 2:17, where the bride says, "The sundial clock," which can be interpreted as a symbol of death or uncertainty, declares to her beloved that he is the valley of love. This reference highlights the idea that even in difficult circumstances, there is always hope and love available. Additionally, Jesus reminds His followers that He will be with them through all the valleys they encounter. "Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed." John 20:29. This promise emphasizes God's presence in our lives, even when we're faced with uncertainty or fear. The repetition of this phrase throughout Scripture underscores its significance. It serves as a reminder that God is always near, guiding us through life's challenges. We can draw comfort from these words and trust that He will see us through the darkest times. Psalm 23:4, Song of Solomon 2:17, John 20:29. Meaning and key themes. The valley of the shadow of death represents a place of uncertainty, fear, and darkness. It's not just a physical location, but a metaphor for the unknown that we face when our circumstances become challenging. This phrase has been used throughout Scripture to convey the idea that God is always present with us, even in the midst of difficulties. The concept of walking through this valley is not unique to Psalm 23. It's mentioned in other passages, such as Song of Solomon 2:17, where the bride uses it as a symbol of love and hope. Jesus also reminds His followers that He will be with them through all their challenges. John 20:29. The repetition of this phrase throughout Scripture highlights its significance. It serves as a reminder that God is always near, guiding us through life's ups and downs. This truth can be a source of comfort for those who face uncertainty and fear. When we're in the valley of the shadow of death, it's essential to remember that true strength and courage come from trusting in a loving God who is always near. We can draw comfort from His presence and trust that He will see us through the darkest times. The phrase, "Valley of the shadow of death," has become an iconic representation of uncertainty and fear, but it's also a reminder of God's love and guidance. It encourages us to look beyond our current circumstances And remember that he has a plan to give us hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. As we navigate through life's challenges, it's essential to hold on to the promise of Psalm 23:4. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff comfort me. This verse reminds us that God is our shepherd, guiding and protecting us even in the midst of uncertainty. Practical application today. The principles found in Psalm 23 can be applied to our lives today. When we face uncertainty or fear, we can draw comfort from the promise of God's presence. We can trust that He is guiding and protecting us, even when we're unsure about what lies ahead. Practically, this means relying on God's love and guidance in times of need. It involves trusting in His goodness, even when circumstances seem bleak. By doing so, we can find strength and courage to navigate through the valley of the shadow of death. Relying on God's love and guidance, trusting in His goodness, finding strength and courage. Conclusion in our journey through Psalm 23, we've discovered that the valley of the shadow of death is not just a physical location, but a metaphor for uncertainty, fear, and darkness. Yet, despite its intimidating appearance, it's also a reminder of God's presence and love. When we walk through these valleys, it's essential to remember that true strength and courage come from trusting in a loving God who is always near. By holding on to the promise of Psalm 23:4, even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff comfort me. We can find comfort in His presence and trust that He will see us through the darkest times. May the principles found in Psalm 23 guide us as we navigate life's challenges. May we rely on God's love and guidance, trusting in His goodness even when circumstances seem bleak. And may we emerge from the valley of the shadow of death with a deeper understanding of His presence and plan for our lives. As we close this series on Psalm 23, I encourage you to reflect on how this psalm has impacted your life. How has it challenged you to trust in God's love and guidance? How has it given you hope and comfort in times of uncertainty?